All right, this is a lesson on "Let the Mermaids Flirt with Me." Everybody knows it from Mississippi John Hurt. The lyrics are actually by W.E. Myers, who is an admirer of Mississippi John Hurt, and he suggested a melody, which is Jimmy Rogers, "Waiting on a Train," and that's where this tune basically comes from. It's what I like to say with Hurt's music. It's everybody thinks of the alternating bass, but he's got some tunes where he does what I call a stop bass, where the alternating bass stops for a beat or two, which makes the continuation of the alternating bass that much cooler. So it's a pretty straight ahead tune. There's a bunch of tab on this, and you can pull it up from different people, and the thing about tab is that it's usually based off of a specific recording, and that doesn't mean that you have to play the song the same way every time. And so I always suggest you play in the style of the composer, the artist, like Mississippi John Hurt. No picks, 2 fingers, thumb. You use as much flesh of the thumb as you possibly can, and you kind of attack the strings. And that's how you're going to get a good, nice, fat sound. Your fingers, as always, come back to your palm. They attack and grab the strings a good bit. As with most Hurt songs, people forget about that inner voice, that middle voice, whatever's on the D string. Usually is a standalone voice that when you practice, you think about that, and then when you're performing it, it'll just come out and bring everything together. So after this rambling intro, let me just play the tune if I can, and it's something like this. So that's once through. Let's start by tuning up. That is the thickest string, low E. A, D, G, B, E. So the tune is in the key of C. It has a lot of things that Hurt does in a bunch of different songs. One of them is either coming up here with the D7 shape, first finger, first string, first fret, the D over here on the second string. So you want to be able to move that up to the 3rd fret and the 5th fret. Okay, so you want to be comfortable doing that, and he'll slide up into that sometimes, like the beginning of this tune. I'm going to turn this. So I'm going to take you through this tune like measure or 2 measures at a time. So the beginning, there's a slide, but you don't have to really do the slide. And Hurt will often use open bass strings that don't seem to make sense with the harmony, because he doesn't make a big deal out of them, where they're slightly muted with the palm or deadened with the thumb when he reattacks a string. So the way the melody goes, it's pretty much what he's playing on the guitar. Okay, so 2nd string, 1st string, 2nd string, 1st string, then you turn it around, 1st to 2nd. So that's your melody. Blues all on the ocean. add the bass to that, most of the tab has open strings, whether it's 5/4 or 6/4, 5/4, or whatever. I really like to walk that bass up. So if it's open A to open D, when you come down here to the G7th position, basically, you can catch the 2nd fret, 5th string, get a B. And then it walks up to the C. No matter which way you want to do it, open strings. Or the walk up. So the first 2 measures, I'm going to utilize that walk up. Then he goes to the F chord. To the C. And then he has that little bass line, which is definitely Jimmy Rogers-esque. So the 3rd and the 4th measures are F, and you have to use your thumb up top. Now he gives you the open G string to get to the C chord. So another thing that Hurt does a lot is he will play the note of the chord that's coming up on the next downbeat. In this case, it's the open G string. You could play it as the A, 2nd fret, and the F. There's the A. Or you could play it as the G. And then the bass line is G, open A, B, C. So it gives you options. When you're first learning this piece, I would play the alternating bass right through, none of the stop bass stuff. The only thing I would do is not play the beat before the little bass riff, because it just gives you a chance to get to it, and it isolates it more and makes it stand out more, in my opinion. Now, I use my thumb for all those notes. If I was using picks like Oliver Reverend Gary Davis, I would probably alternate and use my first finger. To me, it doesn't make sense. It's not that fast, so. And the whole time you're doing that little lick, you have C down. So you want to try to keep the chord shapes as in with all Hurt songs. That way if you hit a string you didn't intend, it's still going to sound cool. That's how you're going to do little variations so you don't play the same thing straight through. So I'm going to try to play these first 4 measures to the piece, nice and slow. Again for you. Then we go on to the next measure, which is F to C. Okay, with Hurt, I would say 90% of the time when he plays a C chord, his bass is 5, 4, 6, 4. Now you can just do 5, 4, but to me it's more authentic sounding, Hurt sound, whatever you want to call it. So you want to be able, obviously, to play the bass lines and the melody lines separate till you put them together. So when we go to that F, this is the 5th measure of the piece. It's this 3rd string, 3rd string, So your melody is bum, 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 to C. Bum, bum. You add a bass to that. So you want to be able to play that melody. You can do the stop bass like this. That's the second beat. He holds that. Pinches on the fourth beat. Then he's right on the beat. So anytime you want to hold a bass note over for a beat or just not play a bass note, that makes it that much more obvious when you go to the alternating bass. So let's try it. I'll play those two measures again. One more time. So when you're first learning this song, as I said, I would keep the alternating bass going, and then as you get more comfortable with it, you can just omit bass notes really wherever you like it, and it's just going to add to the flavor of the tune. So I'm going to move on to the D minor chord, going to the G, which are measures 5, 6 into 7 and 8. So here we go with the F to C to D minor. So, D minor chord. I use little finger on the actual D note, 3rd fret, 2nd string, because that leaves this 3rd finger open to play bass notes if I need to. And then it expands out to the G. So even though you have to like move your little finger from the 2nd to the 1st string, your 3rd finger is almost right there for the bass. So that's just how I do it, because it gives you more options for variations. If you're more comfortable playing the D minor like this with your first 3 fingers, that's fine. I say it in every lesson. If you're happy with your tone, you're happy with your sound, that's all that matters. I'm just trying to lead the way for some people to get this hurt sound down. So the D minor chord, once again, here he's going to the G a half a beat before the downbeat. And that's very cool. And it's also very important to get it to sound right. So those two measures with the D minor to the G, which are measures 7 and 8 of the song. So you can change this bass up. You can stagger it, do the stop bass, play the alternating bass. You can play this tune. There's tons of options on this D minor. So it's like, or limitless variations you can do there. You could, as a solo, go. So with any basically any song, the 5 parameters of music, rhythm is the most important thing. So you have to establish the tempo that you can play without messing up the rhythm. In this case, your bass. So whether it's an alternating bass or the stop bass or that bass riff, you can fool around with the melody, you can fool around with a lot of stuff, but that rhythm has to be constant, it has to be there. And that's why if you just play with a steady alternating bass when you first start learning this song, I think that's the way to go, and then you can subtract. You can actually add interest in the tune by subtracting bass notes. And that's what makes this song cool, in my opinion. So after those 2 measures, here's the D minor. Then he's going to G, where he comes up to get this A note. He does this in a lot of songs. So he might slide up, or he just might come up and grab it. The key here is don't let your little finger leave the string. So, okay, so your melody is to open E. Okay, now the next chord is C. So again, he's anticipating the C by, instead of playing G, D, the open D string, on the 4th beat, he gets the E, 2nd fret of the 4th string, which is bringing him into the C chord. So, there it is. Open G. So you're getting the melody, the D note with your little finger. So that measure is right there. So when you put that together, now half the battle in finger picking is not interfering with open strings as you pick melody notes. So you've got to be aware of that. And also, don't move fingers if you don't need to move them. The least amount of movement is the best. So, I'll play that one more time. Then he goes to the F. These 2 measures are the same 2 measures as 3 and 4. You can play them identical. So if you can play measures 3 and 4, you've got these 2 down. It's open G, anticipating the C. Okay, so that's... measures, which is F. Slide up to the A, 4th fret, 4th string. That's your bass note. You could play it open, but I think that F sharp is way cool because it's a leading tone. And this again is that inner voice moving. So you have the F going up to the F sharp. Okay? So it's like this. Then G, open E. So that 2nd finger on the 4th fret, that does not leave that string till you come back down. So now, whether you want to play the G here, a la Reverend Gary Davis, or bring everything down to the 1st position G, that's up to you. It gives you options for different variations. The main thing is your second finger on the 4th string stays on the 4th string. So I don't care which way you do it or which way I do it. So you have that inner line, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And that is cool. C, and then you're going to G, and the melody is. So the last 8th note is the C note, which is anticipating the final chord of the verse. Now I make the G shape, which you can play melody notes off of, and that would be the second to the last measure. So I'm going to get into that from the F. So the second to the last measure, that G, you don't have to, you can just play the melody, you can play any combination of bass notes you want. The one thing I like to do in her, since almost everything is an alternating bass, 6/4 or 5/4, or as with the C chord where it's 5/4 6/4, it's cool to go 6/5/4, particularly on the G chord. To me, it's a cool variation. So I'm going to get into that from the F again. And you want to try to string these measures together. Work on one measure. If you're comfortable with that, make it into the musical phrase. Most of the phrases in this song are 2-measure phrases. So get those 2 measures down, then move on to the next 2 measures. But it's the last measure would be like. So you could just play bass alternating. Going to the C, or that 6/5/4. Then you don't play bass on the 4th beat. I'm going to play the last 4 measures. Play it from the beginning, nice and slow, see if I can make it through. Pretty much that. So just take it easy. I know I'm repeating myself. Play it through when you're first learning it with the alternating bass, just so it's comfortable and you got the melody rolling. Then take a step back and just eliminate certain bass notes, and you'll see how it just really comes to life and makes this tune special. That's pretty much it, except for, I don't know if I mentioned the lyrics. I've already forgot the guy's name. The lyrics are by W.E. Myers. So I want to make sure he gets credit for that. Hope this helps you out.